Hello, I'm Natalie Kenway, editor of ESG Clarity. Welcome to the Green Dream video series, where we interview key figures from the responsible investment industry. Today, I'm pleased to be speaking to Colm O'Connor, Senior Portfolio Manager responsible for the Sustainable Infrastructure and Energy Solutions Strategies at KBI Global Investors. Thank you very much for joining me today. Firstly, can you explain what ESG or sustainable investing means to your firm?
Sure, thanks Natalie. So at KBI, I suppose we at the heart of ESG for us is both risk and return. So it's minimizing exposure to end markets which might jeopardize your return or pose risks to your investments, and enhancing your portfolio return by incorporating ESG analysis into your portfolio construction process. I suppose at KBI Global Investors, we've been incorporating ESG or sustainable investing for many years. In its infancy, we first, I suppose, prior to around the 1980s, 1990s, we would have restricted stocks. We would have managed a number of mandates for ethical investments, where restricting stocks out of our universe would have been the first port of call. And I suppose over the last 20 years, it's really evolved for us we've incorporated ESG into our portfolio construction. We've increased our reporting around ESG, and then more recently, I suppose, we've been more proactively engaging companies to see if we can change behavior at a company level that would enhance the ESG credentials.
Okay, great. And what do you think still needs to be done, if anything, about education and clarity around sustainable investment practices, the labelling, the definitions, and especially in the sort of infrastructure energy space?
Well, I think a lot has been done in recent years. It's been a big source of frustration for the investment community that there hasn't been a common lens for various stakeholders to use, so that we can measure the impact around ESG investment. Things have improved over recent years. So we at KBI, and a lot of the companies we invest in also use the Sustainable Development Goals as a reporting mechanism, which allows sort of better measurability of the various factors. But we're aware that this is only gaining acceptance now. So it's really trying to find the common framework, a common lens, which all the stakeholders, investors, asset managers, and companies themselves can use to measure their activities.
So you mentioned there about these strategies gaining more acceptance. Do you think the debate on sacrificing returns for responsible investments has gone away, or do you think there's still more work to be done here? We
think we have made great progress in that regard, but there still is greater education to be has to be made. But we think as investors, as we evolve through time, as millennials begin to really have a bigger impact on asset allocation across the investment community, we think it's inevitable that we will gain greater acceptance of ESG analysis as it pertains to asset management. So we think, yes, it is a slow process, but we're on the right path.
Okay, great. And can you tell me about KBI Global Investors? What progress have you made as a business from an ESG perspective?
Yeah, really, I suppose if you want to track that over the last 20 years, how we consider ESG investment, we've made progress really from its infancy, where our focus was on restricting stocks out of the investment universe, to more recently increase the reporting around ESG, integrating ESG analysis into portfolio construction, and then engagement. They're the key factors. So if I was to elaborate on those, on ESG analysis, we score on environmental, social, and governance scores for each company we invest in, so that we will reward companies which have better scores in ESG with higher weights in the portfolio. On the reporting, we map all the activities of the companies we invest in around the Sustainable Development Goals. This is a reporting mechanism which allows us to better measure our activities of companies we invest in for clients who are looking for that kind of reporting. And then finally, on the area of engagement, where we see activities which can be improved, we will collaborate with other investors. We will directly engage with companies to see if we can enact change. So for instance, an example of that would be around coal investment and utilities. There's obviously a big transition underway around the energy transition away from fossil fuel, highly polluting coal and natural gas, and a move towards decarbonisation. Or where we see possible, we will engage with companies who have a legacy amount of fossil fuel or coal exposure see if we can accelerate that decommissioning program. So they're really the areas, I suppose, that I would highlight.
Can you tell me a bit about how volatility around COVID-19 has impacted your strategies and how you think it will affect that fossil fuel transition? Do you think ESG investing will be pushed down the agenda, or with what's happened with COVID-19 accelerate adoption?
Yeah, it's truly remarkable times which we're currently living in. In terms of how we are directly impacted, we believe we've been much better insulated. You look at the sectors which have been directly impacted or most impacted by the pandemic. It's leisure, tourism, it's energy, it's transportation. And when I say energy, I mean old world fossil fuel energy. And the areas which we are exposed to have been much better insulated. Yes, there's been disruption around the supply chain, but generally demand has been fairly robust for the end markets which we invest in. So that's been a good near term. Longer term, the impact of the pandemic really, we await to see, what the true long-term implications are. There has been a lot written about the potential of, the death of big mega hub cities, and that possibly that we migrating, more people will migrate outside. There's inevitably there will be more people working from home. But I suppose the big thing that we would highlight, and as it pertains to our strategies, and that's the area of decarbonisation and climate change. We don't see any reneging of the commitments which countries or governments have come to around CO2 emissions or reductions for 2030, and we think that the path towards net zero target for 2050 remain intact. And indeed, I suppose we've seen evidence of that in the stimulus packages that have been announced to date, whereby if you compare the recession we're going through now versus 08, 09, the stimulus packages back then really didn't prioritise climate change, and the foot was put straight back on the accelerator on old world energy, where we're seeing that relationship change, I suppose. So one of the fallouts from COVID-19 is that we have this big global pandemic where a coordinated action across governments is the preferred route, and we've got a bigger issue facing the human race over the longer term, and that's climate change. So we think that what's been really highlighted is that the lack of coordinated action does present huge problems, and we think governments really recognise that, and that climate change will be firmly back on the agenda once the pandemic crisis eases.
I think you've sort of covered my next question. I was going to ask, how do you anticipate the sustainable investing in infrastructure will evolve over the next decade? I mean, you've kind of covered that, but is there anything else that you want to add? I mean, maybe stretching out over that sort of 10-year time frame.
Yeah, we think ESG will gain prominence, will continue to be more incorporated into asset allocators' thinking, and we think that there's multiple drivers of this. You have every scandal, I suppose, that whether it's environmental, social, governance, the scandals over the last 10 years, whether it's the dam collapse in Brazil last year, whether it's the multiple droughts we've seen, or the forest fires in California we saw last year. We think every event, I suppose, highlights to investors and stakeholders the need to incorporate ESG analysis. So we think that's going to continue. Some secular trends which we see accelerating from here, and I've kind of touched on some of them already, and it's the area really of the energy transition which we're undergoing, and the implications that has for investors as they try to manage their portfolios. So we would highlight that the trend towards cleaner fossil fuel, cleaner energy is going to accelerate, and that governments are going to have to really increase their commitment towards renewable energy, battery storage. And what this means for old world energy is clearly very negative, but also all the ancillary end markets exposed to that. So investors to date have been focusing on the risks around coal investments, which we think is quite right. But there's other end markets such as oil, gas, transportation, whereby if we have experienced a peak in oil demand in 2019, the implication for some of those sectors is quite significant, and investors need to be aware of this, and I suppose incorporating environmental risks around their allocation is key to enabling that.
So yeah, I understand that you have quite a unique stance on how you measure revenue impact. Can you tell me a bit more about that, please?
Sure. So as it pertains to impact reporting on impact investing, we have our own RAS score, as you highlighted, which is where we map all the revenue of the end markets which we're exposed to, and where we can identify to investors, for every $1 of investment, where it's mapped to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, this is a big undertaking. It's an annual project we do each year, where we report, as I said, for each of the companies we invest in, and we go into all the underlying end markets which they're exposed to, and see if we can positively align them to the Sustainable Development Goals. So again, this is a reporting tool. It's not incorporated into our portfolio construction, but it's a nice, neat project which our investors really like in terms of measuring the impact of their investing. And given the end markets which we're exposed to, our portfolios are investing in solution providers around the supply of fresh water, food, and also clean energy. We're obviously very, very pleased with the positive alignment of our activities with the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, it sounds like we've got some big changes ahead. But my last question, we finished on a fun question. What is your favourite sustainable snack or hot drink?
I would say it has to be the Impossible protein-based meat burger. It's not something we can get freely in Ireland, if I'm quite honest. But when you go to the United States, in particular on the West Coast, it's something that I would, one of the first things I'd love to do is to order one of those. But other than that, it's to, rather than a favorite snack, to me, it's if I was to highlight sustainable eating, sustainable food, it's to really minimize meat consumption. Would be the biggest change that anyone can do, in my view, is that if we minimize meat consumption, you minimize CO2 pollution. So that would be even though it's not a favorite snack, that would be my preferred route.
Right, I love a vegan burger too. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Please keep an eye on the ESG Clarity website for the Green Dream video series. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.